Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Alex Driscoll again from Sweet Georgia Sports coming at you today with the Atlanta Braves 2018 Top 10 Pitching Prospects because it's prospect list season. Baseball America and MLB.com have released theirs within the past week, and I have finally finished on my pitching prospects list. I'm still working on the top 10 overall and the top 10 positional players prospect list, but I finally have the pitching prospects list done. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And kicking it off at number 10 is going to be Kyle Muller. Kyle Muller is a 20-year-old lefty. He was drafted in 2016 in the second round and 44th overall. This year he spent the whole season with the rookie team in Danville. He was 1-1 with an ERA of 4.15. His WHIP was 1.28. He had 49 strikeouts to 18 walks and 47 2/3 innings pitched. His strikeouts per 9 innings came in at 9.38, and his walks came in at 3.44. That's his walks per 9 innings. And his FIP, which is fielding independent pitching, that's a new advanced stat that's gotten a lot of height the past couple of years, which is kind of like a more truer version of ERA. It came in at 4.40. So he does still have a lot of room to improve. His scouting report: he has a plus fastball that sits 89 to 93 and maxes out around 94, 95 with some sink. He has a plus curveball that sits around 75 to 78 with 11.5 break. And when I say 11.5, it's like a clock. So when it's at the 11 part of it, it's going to start there and then break all the way down to where the 5 slot would be. And so that's basically like diagonal break. And he also has a plus changeup that comes in around 79 to 82 with some good sink. He has okay secondary stuff with a slider and a cutter, but he is trying to put it all together still, because he is now focusing on being a pitcher only, because coming out in 2016 in the draft, everybody was saying, hey, he can be a solid bat, but his upside is much better as a pitcher. And John Coppolella, former GM John Coppolella and crew, back in 2016, decided to draft Muller as a pitcher, and so he is now focusing on just being a pitcher only, and is still developing. So moving on from Kyle Muller, we're going to come in at number 9, and at number 9 it's going to be Bryse Wilson. Bryse Wilson is a 20-year-old righty, and he was drafted in 2016 in the 4th round. He spent this season at Low A Rome. This year he had a pretty solid season. He was 10-7, an ERA of 2.56, a WHIP of 1.04, which is outstanding. He struck out 139 guys and walked 37 in 137 innings pitched. His strikeouts per 9 innings was 9.13, and his walks was 2.43. And his FIP, which is a true version of ERA again, was at a solid 3.20. And for his scouting report, he has a plus fastball that sits around 90 to 94, and he can max it out around 95 to 97. So mid to high 90s is what he's maxing out at. He has a plus slider and a plus slurve, which is a slider and a slurve mix, that come in at 79 to 82, and he has a plus changeup that comes in at 82 to 85 miles per hour. He got with Bryse Wilson, he kind of got lost in the names of the usual high school pitchers that the Braves loaded up on. But, again, he was drafted in the 4th round in 2016, and he made a name for himself this year in 2017. He was with Low A Rome all season, and in his first full season, he had a stellar year. Again, he has a plus fastball, low to mid-90s slider, slurve, and a change, and he's also a bulldog on the mound, and he has that very simple but very effective 4 to 3 pitch mix that he can use with the different grips and spins. And if he continues to develop, he could follow the fast track that top prospects Kolby Allard and Mike Soroka have been put on, and he could become a legit starter. Probably be a more 3 to 5 guy, mid to back rotation guy. But if not, he can definitely be solid in the bullpen at the major league level, which I think he might play more into. So moving on from Bryse Wilson, number 9, coming in at number 8 is a very familiar name and one of the most colorful names in all of baseball, and that's Touki Toussaint. Touki Toussaint is a righty. He's 21. We acquired him in a trade in 2015. This year, he spent time in the High A, Florida, Double A, Mississippi, and he went to the Arizona Fall League. So all those numbers are going to be combined, and so combined this year, he was 7-14 with an ERA of 7.45, a WHIP of 1.47. He had a very, very impressive 181 strikeouts to 71 walks in 153 2/3 innings pitched. He struck out 12.4 guys per 9 innings and walked 5.65 guys per 9 innings. In his FIP, I couldn't find the FIP for the Arizona Fall League, but his FIP at High A and Double A combined, and when I say combined, is basically more like average, because you just add them, then divide them by however many levels he was at. So I just added the FIP from Florida and added the FIP from Mississippi, and it came and divided them, and it came out to 3.54. His scattering report plus fastball that sits low to mid 90s at 92 to 95 can max it out around 96, 98. Plus curveball with good 12 to 6 break. Again, it's like the clock. So it basically breaks straight down, and it is earth-shattering. It's probably the best curveball I've ever seen in my life, and probably the best curveball, at least in the Bryse system, if not the whole, all of minor league baseball. And he has an okay changeup that can sit around 84 to 87. I know what you might be thinking, like, with the numbers, how can he be ranked this high? But he showed a lot of slow but very steady progression added in with that sky-high ceiling. The minor league pitching coaches really changed his delivery to an almost exclusive stretch, kind of like what David Price and Steven Strasburg do. And if you can keep up this steady progress, you could make a solid back end of the rotation guy. But if that doesn't come to fruition, he'll make a solid late inning reliever, probably a seventh inning to 8th inning setup guy for Touki Toussaint if he doesn't become a frontline starter. So moving on from Touki Toussaint, coming in at number 7 is Max Fried. Max Fried is 23. He's a left-handed pitcher, and he was acquired via trade in 2014. This year, he spent time with Double A Mississippi, Triple A Gwinnett, and he got a cup of coffee here in Atlanta with the big club, and he was sent to the Arizona Fall League, so we're going to combine all those numbers. So combined, he was 6-13 with a 3.69 ERA. His WHIP was 1.31. He struck out 145 guys, walked 65 in 144 2/3 innings pitched. His strikeouts per 9 innings was 9.16, and his walks was 3.8, and his FIP was 3.74. So a very, very solid year for Max Fried in 2017. His fastball sits around 92-95, can max out to 96-98, plus changeup sits 84-87, plus curveball that sits 78-81 with 11.5 break, and a plus slurve that sits 82-85 with, again, 11.5 break. He started off the year a bit shaky in Double A, but once he settled into Triple A and the major leagues as a spot starter and long reliever, he was pretty solid. He then went to the Arizona Fall League as a full-time starter and absolutely lit it up this fall in Arizona. I think this year he might have a short stint in Triple A. He'll be competing for either the 4th or 5th spot in the rotation coming out of spring, but I think a short stint in Triple A would benefit Fried greatly. That way he can kind of get and perfect his feel for all of his pitches, and then see what he has as a backline starter. And if he doesn't have the tools to make a solid backline starter, he is going to make a great long lefty reliever. So moving on from Max Fried, coming in at number 6 is Joey Wentz. Joey Wentz is a 20-year-old lefty. He was drafted in the first collective bargaining agreement round, which is kind of like I really don't know how to explain it right now, but it's kind of like the secondary round. It's kind of like first round and second round purgatory, basically, but he came in at 40th overall, and this year he spent time with he spent the whole season actually with low A Rome. This year at low A Rome, very, very solid season. 8-3, an ERA of 2.60, a whip of 1.10. Very, very solid there with whip. He struck out 152 guys, only walked 46, and 131 and 2/3 innings pitched. He struck out 10.4 guys per 9 innings and walked just 3.16 guys per 9 innings. And his FIP came in at 2.68. So a very, 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 very solid season for Joey Wentz this year. Or this past season, actually. His fastball sits around 90 to 93 and maxes out around 94, 96. He has a plus curveball that sits 75 to 78 with 11.5 break. His changeup is a plus as well that sits 77 to 80 with some good sink, and he has plus command of his pitches. Kind of started off slow due to walking guys a bit too much in 2016, but they got corrected, and when he made the jump to low A Rome in 2017, he had a very solid showing. He didn't lose, or actually he did lose some initial velo, so if he can get that fastball sitting consistently at 92, 95 like he did in his first season, he could make a solid 2 or 3 option in a rotation, but if not, he's probably going to make a very solid 3 mid to back rotation guy, and that is not a bad thing at all, especially for a guy that young of age, and for him being a lefty as well. So moving on from Joey Wentz, coming in at number 5, we're halfway there, is Ian Anderson. Ian Anderson is still 19. He is a righty. He was drafted in 2016 in the first round and 3rd overall, and this year he spent all season with low A Rome. He was 4-5, had an ERA of 3.14. His whip was 1.34. Struck out 101 guys, walked 43 in 83 innings pitched. He struck out 10.9 guys per 9 innings and walked 4.6 guys per 9 innings. And his FIP was a very solid 3.04. For Ian Anderson, for his scouting report, he has a fastball that sits 91, 95, maxes out around 96, so a very good plus right there. He has a plus curveball that sits 75 to 79 with some solid 12 to 6 break, a plus changeup that sits around 80 to 84 with some solid sink, and he has okay command that could use some refining. Anderson is a very, very nice and projectable righty, and has very, very good upside and looks to develop into a solid frontline starter. But if you can't fine-tune his command, he'll more than likely be an average number 2 guy or a very solid 3 or 4 guy in a rotation. Coming in at number 4 is my absolute favorite prospect in Mike Soroka. Mike Soroka is a righty. He's 20 years old. He was drafted in the first round at 28th overall, and he spent this entire season with AA Mississippi. He went 11-8, had a fantastic ERA of 2.75, a whip of 1.09, struck out 125 guys, and only walked 34 guys, and he did this in 153 innings. 153 and 2/3 innings pitched. He only struck out 7.35 guys per 9 innings, but he only walked 2 batters per 9 innings, and that was just solid 2 right on the nose, 2 guys per 9 innings. And his FIP was 3.19, so a very, very solid year for Mike Soroka, and he also took home the organizational pitcher of the year this year for the Atlanta Braves, which is a very, very stellar award in this organization. His fastball, it's not as his velo isn't always there, just because that's the pitcher that he is, but he has a 2-seam and a 4-seam that usually sit anywhere in between 88 to 94 and usually max out around 95 to 96. He has a plus change at 82 and 85. His curveball usually sits around 82 to 86 with 11 to 5 break, and he has plus command and control, and it's probably tops among Braves pitching prospects. And I know Baseball America graded him out as the best minor leaguer with control. Again, he's my favorite overall prospect, but but that doesn't necessarily make him the best, though. He possesses an insanely high ceiling with a very high floor as well. He attacks hitters low in the zone and looks for grounders over strikeouts, which is a very, very much needed breath of fresh air in today's baseball, because a lot of guys are looking to throw 96 to 100 miles an hour and strike a guy out. And that's not who Mike Soroka is. Again, he sits high 80s, low 90s, and just pounds the zone low and sinks everything and just gets guys to roll over and lets his defense do the work for him. He is and will be a workhorse on the mound and will look to become a top of the rotation arm very, very soon. I think he can make Atlanta. I think he can make the show as early as this year. I don't think he'll necessarily be a starter in the Braves rotation this year. Maybe towards the end of the season in September, once major league teams can expand the rosters. But I think Mike Soroka will be up this year, and we'll see a lot and hear a lot of Mike Soroka in 2018. And before I get into the top three, I want to tell you how I do my top three. With my top three, I take the guy who I think has the highest ceiling, the highest floor, and the most pro-ready guy. And I just sit down, I watch them, I look at their stuff, I look at their numbers, and just based off of that, I form an opinion. And it's any mixture, again, of highest floor, highest ceiling, and most pro-ready guy. And so coming in at number 3 is Luiz Gohara. He is my most pro-ready guy. He's a 21-year-old lefty. He was acquired via trade in 2016. He spent this year at High A Florida, Double A Mississippi, Triple A Gwinnett, and of course he had a couple of starts with Atlanta with the big club. This year combined in all 4 levels, he went 8-7, an ERA of 3.76, a WHIP of 1.28. He struck out 178 batters and only walked 52 guys in 152 innings. He struck out 10.4 guys per 9 innings and just walked 3.03 guys per 9 innings, and his FIP was 2.70. For Gohara, he has a plus fastball that sits 94-97, can max out around 98-100, which is probably it is the best fastball in all of the Braves organization, and one of the best fastballs in all of the minor leagues and all of the eligible prospects. He probably has one of the best. Michael Kopech probably has the best, in my opinion. But he also has a plus slider that sits 82-85 with tight spin with a nice hard break. And he has an okay changeup that sits 86-89, and it could be better. Can he develop a much better overall feel for his change and a better feel for his command and control? Gohara, if he can do what I just mentioned, he could become a very, very consistent frontline starter, and he can become a star in Atlanta if he continues to progress like this and looks to be a stalwart in the Braves' future rotation. So coming in at number 2, and the guy that has the highest floor for me, is Kyle Wright. Kyle Wright is a 22-year-old righty. He was drafted this past season in the first round and 5th overall. He spent time with the rookie team, the GCL Braves, which is kind of like once you get drafted, that's where you go. And based off like 2 or 3 games that they'll evaluate, and then they'll send you wherever they want you to go. So this year he was 0-1 with a 2.65 ERA, a WHIP of just 1. He struck out 18 guys and just walked 6 in 17 innings pitched. He struck out 9.52 guys per 9 innings and walked 3.17 guys per 9 innings, and his FIP came in at 2.27. For Kyle Wright, plus fastball sits 90-94 and maxes out around 95-97, plus changeup 86-89, a plus slider that sits 82-85, and a plus curve that sits 78-82. He was seen as the top collegiate prospect coming out of the 2017 season. And any of those top 5 guys, Royce Lewis, Hunter Green, Brendan McKay, Mackenzie Gore, Kyle Wright, could have gone first overall. But the other teams, they just picked who they thought were the best available and selected their guys. So when Wright popped up at number 5, the Bryse pulled the trigger and broke away from the norm as of late and drafted a college righty with a very high ceiling and an exponentially high floor. So if Wright can zoom his way through the minors this year, which I think he's very capable of doing, he very well could be in Atlanta come September 1st when we can expand the roster. And before I get to the number 1 guy, here's some honorable mention guys. AJ Minter, who looks to be the closer this year. Patrick Weigel, he had a very, very solid 2017 season before. He had to undergo Tommy John surgery. And Tucker Davidson, who could very well appear on a mid-season top 10 pitching prospects list. So just keep an eye out for those 3 guys. So finally coming in at number 1, it's Kolby Allard. He's 20 years old. He's the lefty, drafted first overall. Not first overall. He could have been drafted first overall if it not been for that stress reaction in his back. He was drafted in the first round and 14th overall back in 2015, and he spent all of this year in AA Mississippi. And he went 8-11 with an ERA of 3.18, a whip of 1.26. He struck out 129 guys, only walked 44 in 150 innings pitched. He struck out 7.7 guys per 9 innings and walked only 2.6 guys per 9 innings, and his FIP came in at 327. He has a fastball that has lost some velocity, I will say, but it's still a plus that sits 88 to 93, maxes out around 94, 96 with some good cut, a plus changeup that sits 83 to 85 with some really good feel. He has great feel for that changeup, really developed that this year. And a plus curveball that sits 77 to 81 with good 12 to 6 break. And he has okay command and control. He's just looking to refine that. He did fall off a bit in some prospect lists due to 2 things. He lost some velo off his fastball that used to sit low to mid-90s, which in 2017 set high 80s to low 90s. Then the other thing making him fall off was that his K rate has gone down while his walk rate has gone up. And that's mainly due to him experimenting with different grips on his change and his curve. I still think he has the highest upside of any Bryse pitcher, and if he can get his velo back and get his walk rate down, Allard could become a solid 1 to 2 piece in the top of the rotation very, very soon in Atlanta. So that's going to be it. I know it was a bit long, but I got more detail this year in my top 10 pitching prospects list. Again, I'll probably have my top 10 positional prospects list out sometime in the very near future, probably next week. If you liked it, give a big thumbs up. Comment below who your top 10 pitching prospects list is. Share with all your friends, family, other Bryse fans. And so with that, I've been Alex Driscoll saying chop on and God bless.